to the team, just introduce themselves, just say hello, and then we'll kick forward. Let me start with the SADC parliamentary team that is sitting in Namibia. There's Dr. Sikali and a couple of them there. Anybody from SADC, please just come through and say hello, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Jacob Sekgale. I'm South African based in Namibia, working for SADC PF. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Scarlett. Good to have you. Who else do we have on the call? Let's go. Lasson, please go ahead, or any of you, please.
That is Monashe. From
yes,
SADC
please
PF.
go ahead. Hey, Monashe, yes, you're here, Monashe. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Monashe Tofa, Program Manager for Climate Change, Environment, Health and SRH at the SADC Parliamentary Forum. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Good to have you. Let's go. Who else is here?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lasson Kapata. I work for CARE International based in Lusaka as a regional MIWA advisor. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lasson. Lasson has been part of the technical working group team. Great. Let's keep going.
I can go, Bevis.
Please go ahead.
This is Maron Zulu. I work as the mail manager for Plan International in Lusaka. I was part of the team.
Brilliant. Let's keep going. Who else is here from the technical working group?
I can speak, Bevis, from the broader technical working group, not the core group. This is Meron from UNFP. My colleagues are here. They have already introduced themselves from different member states. We are really looking forward to support the team in its endorsement and then even follow up after the endorsement. And we are really happy to be part of this team. Thank you very much, Bevis.
Brilliant. Thanks, Maron, and thank you for all the work and all the support that you are rendering to this process. Great. Thank you. All right. I don't know if there are any more. Kudzai, you want to say hello again? I think you did to represent Zimbabwe, but you can also say hello quickly. All right. Okay, great. Let's get going with today's meeting. All right. Great. So let me just share our first presentation and we'll keep going. So in terms of the order of today and the program that we have scheduled for you, we have predominantly 3 main sessions. The first session is focused at you understanding the SADC MEL framework, the indicator structure, and the theory of change. Okay, that will be the first session that we are going to do, and I will be leading that particular session. After we've understood the indicators and we have understood the framework, we'll then transition to looking at the actual dashboard and how the dashboard sits, understanding how to navigate the different aspects related to the dashboard. And then from there, we'll then look at how will we do the validation exercise. So there are about 3 sessions that will be going. We'll be giving a few breaks here and there whenever necessary for us to be able to breathe, take a glass of water, or anything like that. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free. As you have noticed, we are very relaxed and very participatory in our approach. And so do not at all, for any reason, hold back. We'll also allow questions as we go through. And so again, in case your issue is not being addressed through the session, know that we'll provide you an opportunity to ask the questions that you need to ask. All right. So with that said, then let's get into the first session. So the first session is focused on the MEL framework, the Monitoring, Evaluation, Research and Learning framework. And I will be leading this session. But a bit of a backdrop. As you know, the SADC model law on eradicating child marriages and protecting children already in marriage was developed and launched at about 2016. So it's been around for a couple of years now. But what you will notice is that the framework itself has got three main aspects that have been clearly articulated. And then there is a fourth aspect in the framework that was envisaged to be fully articulated and developed and never got developed at the time that the framework was launched. And so what we have done over the last 2 years or so has been that we've actually now built the monitoring and evaluation accountability framework. And this is what I'll be sharing with you. Now, to understand this, you have to understand how the model law itself is structured, all right? So at the heart of the model law is eradicating child marriages and protecting children already in marriages. And now we are even including the phrase, including survivors of child marriages. So we are aware that there are times where we have been successful at recovering children from marriages, but then we also need to have frameworks for how those children will be supported, protected, and also integrated back into society. So that's what the framework, and that's how the framework is designed. All right. So with that said in mind, the framework has got four main arms. The first one is around prevention. The prevention arm of the model law focuses on articulating programs and model laws that enable the prevention of child marriages from happening. Let me put a disclaimer from the onset that we had a challenge differentiating prevention and protection when articulating all this. But you will see why. It's simply because everything is very interrelated. And so the difference is really being made for purposes of just articulation. But in actual practice, every time you're doing prevention work, you are somewhat integrating some protection work, and vice versa. Every time you're doing protection work, you have to integrate prevention work. So these work in tandem. So with regards to the prevention work, we are focusing on quality education and life skills, empowerment and opportunities, positive social and community engagement, positive social norms and community engagement. So looking at the entire discourse around social transformation and eradicating our social and cultural norms that are promoting child marriages, all right? So that's what prevention is all about. So when you go into the SADC model law, you will see that there are programs that are proposed on how to prevent child marriages, but there are also model laws that are promoted to prevent child marriage. So, for example, the law that promotes that the child should never, or the legal age for marriage is an example of a law that has been promoted by the model law to prevent child marriages, because the legal age of marriage is 18. If all countries across SADC only allow for marriages to happen after 18, we would eradicate child marriages. So that's an example of a law. But then that law is then coupled by a suggestion of some programs that can be then implemented in order for us to achieve that. So that's what the model law articulates. And so what we have done in the monitoring and evaluation framework is that we have built a theory of change for how that will be attained. And we've built a couple of indicators of how both the application of the model law and the implementation of the programs and the projects that have been suggested alongside prevention, so that we can enhance accountability. All right. The second arm is protection. In the arm of protection, we're ensuring that that the well-being of children at risk, so we use the word at risk here, and those children already in marriages and survivors are integrated, are protected through integrated services and support systems. We're looking at health, legal recourse, psychosocial support, safety, and protection. So that's what the protection arm of the model law looks at. So again, we have built indicators and theory of change, and you will see that very, very soon. And then the third arm, which is obvious, is around the legal framework itself. So, of course, it's strengthening laws, policies, and enforcement mechanisms to prohibit child marriages and to ensure justice and redress for affected children. All right. So here you will see promotion of strong laws and policies and coherence across the region. So ensuring that we as a region are being coherent in the way that we are thinking around legislature around child marriages. So again, another example is really the promotion of the domestication of the SADC model law, and ensuring that we are adopting the framework, effective enforcement, accountability and redress, inclusivity, environmental, the region. So this apologies for that, you can't see it very clearly, but it's just really the regional coherency and sustainability around the legal frameworks. And around resourcing, for example, ensuring that all our programs on child marriages are comprehensively resourced, but they are backed up by legal frameworks and policy mechanisms that ensure that there is sustainability in our interventions that we are promoting. So that is how the model law, in a very, very quick summary, is structured. And therefore, in terms of building the monitoring, evaluation, and accountability mechanisms, we have built around these three. So the content comes from these three, and then this is the infrastructure that's been built. It has data collection mechanisms. It has now built, this is what we have built now in terms of the MEL framework and the structure of it. So we have built theory of change to start with, which just simply articulates how we think change happens. Now, we didn't have to reinvent this because it's already articulated in the model law. So all we have done is just ensure that we have created the theory of change diagrammatically, and I'll show you that in a short while. And then we've gone ahead to build corresponding indicators that will then track the various levels of results that are in the theory of change. So these have been articulated in an indicator matrix. And we have also developed a monitoring and evaluation plan, clearly articulating when each of those indicators would be collected, how they would be collected, including identifying pockets where this data is probably sitting, to ensure that there is efficient collection of data, collection of it, and then coupled with a digital dashboard, which becomes now our tool for communicating this information in a very easy, in a very fast way, but also in a way that it can promote decision making. So that's the essence behind the digital dashboard. And then we've also built a program framework that has articulated some minimum standards on how to program around child marriages. And while these tools and all these aspects we've built are around the model law itself, you will notice that they can actually be applied in different programming setups when you're doing your projects on child marriages, when you're doing your programming on child marriages, even outside the confines of the SADC model law itself. And as I've already mentioned, there has been a team that has been involved in doing this. However, we do see all of you here as part and parcel of taking this work forward in different ways. All right. So we do see member states here, representatives from the parliaments, representatives from different civil society organizations to take this process forward in helping us validate what we have found, and ensuring that wherever we need resources, either human resource or even financial resource, that we are coming together to take this work forward. So that's the M&E framework. That's what it looks like. It is evidence-based. It's promoting accountability. It's also adaptive in a way. You will see how we are promoting an iterative process in the way that all this is happening. The overall goal is that we must have a robust MEL system that drives results, ensures accountability, and contributes to the future where every child is free, safe, and empowered. That is what we are promoting here. All right. So that's the architecture of the model law, and that is the architecture of the MEL framework that we have built. Today, I will take you through the theory of change. I'll take you through the indicators, and then we'll also look at the digital dashboard. We won't go through the program frameworks today. the minimum standards, but those will be shared as well. Now, in case you're already feeling overwhelmed, don't worry. What we have done is that each of the member states has been assigned a member from the core that will be supporting you to discussing. Just checking if you're able to hear me. I think I heard as if something has been disconnected. Bruno, just to check, am I still audible? Can you hear me?
You are loud and clear, but we had lost you for a
Brilliant.
second.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Apologies for that. All right. So yes. So each of your member states has been assigned a focal point person, a technical person that is going to help you in all aspects which related to what we're going to present, including the questions you may have and how you will be mobilized and how we will take this work forward. All right. So don't worry about that. I'll show you their names at the end, and a number of them you've already seen them here. And when we send out all this resource and all this material, we'll also send their contact email addresses by the end of day today. All right. So back up. Let's get into now the theory of change. All right. So in terms of the theory of change and indicators, I know that not all of you are programmers here. So don't worry about that word theory of change. It is as simple as just thinking about how we think change will happen. So all those areas that we've presented to you, prevention, protection, and legal frameworks, they are things that we need to do in order for us to achieve those results. So that's what the theory of change will show you. So here is an example. Here is a theory of change on legal protection, on the legal frameworks. And I'll explain all of this. So the goal that we have under legal frameworks is that we want by 2030, all member states to have fully domesticated and enforced the SADC model law, creating an enabling legal and social environment that enables us to eradicate child marriages, protect children at risk, and also support those that are already in marriages, including survivors. That is the goal. That's the goal of the work around legal frameworks. We want this model law that has been developed to be domesticated and to be enforced. So, for example, we have some provisions in there that have been suggested. We want member states to be able to lead processes in their states and be able to domesticate this. What is the impact overall that we are looking to achieve? We are looking to attain an impact that completely eradicates child marriages and safeguards the rights and well-being of children at risk, already in marriages, and survivors. That is the overall impact. It means that we will only rest when child marriages have been eradicated. We will only rest when children who are in marriages that we can't take them out are protected and that they are looked after. And those who escape child marriages are also given some form of support services that enable them to be reintegrated into society. So that's the impact. That's the overall change that we want to see. What are the building blocks that will enable us get to this change? So these are the outcomes. So outcomes are just, the changes that are before the overall grand impact that we are looking for. So when we see these changes happen, we are almost sure that we are getting closer to our impact. So there is a relationship here between impact and outcome. So we've got three main outcomes that we've identified. Now, these are not the only outcomes that will probably happen, but these are the ones that we have prioritized under this process to focus on. So the first one is that we want the member states, as articulated already, to domesticate the SADC model law for preventing child marriage and protecting children. So the first result we want to see is we want to see evidence of domestication. We want to see if we see member states starting to domesticate the model law and ensuring that the prevention and protection mechanisms are being set up in the member states as articulated in the model law, we are getting closer to our impact. The second outcome that we are focusing on is that governments allocate adequate resources across relevant ministries to provide comprehensive support for children at risk of marriage, already in marriage, and survivors. So we want to see member states resourcing the work around preventing child marriages, setting aside budgets, and they're not just setting aside minimal budgets, but they are adequately resourcing this work. The third outcome we are focused on is that the member states establish national reporting and accountability mechanism to monitor implementation of the SADC model law. So these are the three main outcomes that we are looking for. And when these are attained, we are certain that we will get to our impact. And so the indicators that have been developed are corresponding to these results. So you see at impact level, we have an indicator that is tracking the prevalence of child marriages, for example, because we want to eradicate them. So if we track the prevalence, we'll be able to check, are we eradicating them? We also are checking some indicators qualitatively around extent to which, for example, contents of the model law or aspects of the model law are being domesticated in your member states. We are monitoring budgets allocation towards child marriage initiatives. You will see indicators that will be looking at the reporting within member states on aspects related to child marriages. So those are the indicators that will correspond to this framework. All right. We also went further to identify outputs. These are areas of intervention that we want to see, things that must be, or aspects that must be done in order for these results to be achieved. I'm trying to be very simplistic so that we accommodate any people here that may not be familiar with this M&E language. So it's just very simple. These are the results. Here is the change we want to see. And here, these are the things that we need to do in order to realize this change. So what do we need to do? Number one, we need to ensure that SADC member states mobilize relevant stakeholders. So there must be mobilization within your member states of different stakeholders that are then supporting legal reforms. There must be a movement, a palpable movement in your countries that is promoting legal reforms to domesticate and harmonize existing traditional civil laws, policies, and ensuring that they are beginning to be harmonized to domesticate the SADC model law ending child marriage. So if we are seeing this, then we are sure that we'll probably get to some domestication and we'll probably get to some eradication. The second one is that we want to see that there are established coordinated mechanisms across your executive, your legislature, and judiciary, that the three arms of government have got established mechanisms to work together to formulate laws, to ensure enforcement and implementation of programs. So there must be coherence across these three arms of government, and there must be established mechanisms, that are driving this harmonization at work. The third one is that SADC member states plan, budget, and implement. So the aspect of having clear budgets, clear plans, and clear implementation across a multi-sectoral, using a multi-sectoral approach, because we know that child marriage is not one single institution that can completely eradicate child marriages, because it is a multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary vice. And so we have to respond in such a way. And then the fourth one is that member states have functional reporting mechanisms. So these are the to-do ones. And that's how we have pitched the theory of change. I hope you are getting much, much clearer. And so the indicators are measuring these aspects. Now, we also set out some few assumptions that we are making. So, for example, I won't read all of them. For example, we are hoping that the member states have political will to align. And because all of you are here and because we have representation from members of parliament, we think we already have this, but you need to keep pushing to ensure that there is political will. We are also assuming that there will be legal systems in member states that are flexible enough to allow harmonization, that your legal fraternities in your member states are accommodating of such changes. It will not be possible to achieve any of this if the working environment is very, very inflexible, to put it that way. All right. So these are some of the assumptions. So now, what are the indicators that are going to help us track all these change? All right. So having understood what I've just presented here, what you're seeing here is an extract from the indicator matrix that we have created. Now, there are more indicators in the actual Excel document, the indicator matrix, but on legal frameworks, these are the 6 indicators that we have prioritized. And so at impact level, so that's the result statement that you have seen. So we've simply gotten this result statement and all these, and we've copied and pasted them here. So don't worry about trying to understand what that means, but just to help you connect. So that's the result statement. So for example, on eradicating child marriages, we are measuring proportion of women aged 20 to 24 who were married or in a union. Now, we are excited to let you know that this indicator is not entirely new. This indicator is an SDG indicator 5.3.1. It's already being measured in your countries. So it already exists. There's already data there, and your member state should have already allocated resources, or at least there should be some resources are available for this data to be obtained. All right. So that's what we are monitoring. We are measuring on this impact level. I must say that the impact is the same across all other frameworks, so it will remain the same. But you'll see that we have a little bit more indicators maybe on prevention and protection. On the area of member states domesticating SADC model law, we have just said if we can measure the number of countries with national action plans to end child marriages, that will enable us at least have a sense that we are moving in the right direction. The third indicator that we are focusing on is actually at output level. So we are focusing on number of advocacy campaigns that are engaging government and civil society for ending child marriages. So this is again a UNFPA, a UNICEF indicator as well being tracked. So we'll be glad to obtain data from there on your member state, and that's the information we're going to use to track progress. There's another one here, which is number of countries with multi-sectoral approaches to end child marriages. Again, you can see the indicator code there. It's a UNFPA, UNICEF indicator. Again, that's where we'll get this information from. All right. And this is collected annually. These are collected annually. So every year, these indicators will have data on them. So we're excited to be updating the data every year on these indicators. Now, some of them, like at impact level, it's collected 3 to 5 years, so data can only practically change after 3 years on that particular indicator, right? In terms of the outcomes we've prioritized, we are measuring number of countries with budget allocation. So we want to see budget allocation. And this one has got 3 main sources. So we know that it's a UNFPA indicator, UNFPA, UNICEF indicator, 6.1 in the global program. But we also know that the AU campaign is also tracking this indicator 3.2. And then we also know that in all your countries, there is a national annual budget that is allocated. And so this is possible for us to be able to measure annually. And then finally, we are tracking number of member states that report child marriage, or that are reporting on child marriage indicators. So we want to be able to track member states that are monitoring child marriage indicators. This is a SADC gender strategy indicator, 4.1, and all your SADC member states are tracking this particular indicator. All right. So thank you so much. That is all on the indicator, on the framework around, on the area around legal frameworks. I want to stop here now and get some reflections. And so I have a question for you on the screen. And simply mention 3 outcomes on legal frameworks that you have heard that I've just presented to you. Let me give you a few seconds to digest, and you can respond. Please lift your hand, raise your hand, and we'll be able to recognize you, and we'll be able to give you a chance to speak. mention 3 outcomes on legal frameworks, any 3 outcomes. You can mention 1, you can mention 2. If you know all of them, we would be glad to hear you contribute. May I ask Lasson to help me monitor the hands on the screen and recognize the people that are raising their hands and give them the right to speak, please. Thank you.
All right, great. So I can't see any hand coming up. Please, you can mention any of the 3 outcomes under the legal framework. Maybe you can paraphrase that in your own words. That's fine. That indicates that you are grasping the idea. So don't worry about the answer being wrong or right. Just give it a try. I can't see any hands, Bevis.
All right. So either I'm doing a very poor job at articulating this or people are still shy. So which one is it? Let me show them to you again. This is the theory of change. All right. This is the indicator matrix. And I just want to hear a discussion here. What stood out for you? Is anything that you want to reflect on? Have we gotten the theory of change right? You don't even have to pick the outcomes, but did anything stand out for you? It's very important that I get some feedback to just make sure that we are on the same page. And if there are issues you don't agree with, this is an opportunity also to be able to reflect. Any questions? So Everlis has written there, I see your comment. The government allocates adequate resources across the ministries to provide support for children at risk. Brilliant. Thank you so much. I accept, yes, we need government to resource the work on ending child marriage. If they are not resourcing, there is no way we're going to eradicate child marriages. So thank you, Everlis, for that submission. Anyone else that wants to reflect on what you've picked out?
Bevis,
All
I
right.
see a hand from Dr. Skade.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I think for me, one that is very important is number of countries with national action plans to end child marriage. And then I say this is important because of, in many cases, we have seen many countries, they will actually enact laws, but they do not domesticate or implement these laws. So an action plan is it's a step forward in order to ensure that countries implement national laws that are actually get towards addressing child marriage. And I think this is very, very critical because once you develop an action plan, you also have to set out resources, as the previous speaker has said. And those resources then will be implementing these action plans based on the needs of the country. Thank you.
Dr. Sikale, that's very important what you've just said there. And allow me to just read the indicator definition on this particular indicator. So if you're wondering where Dr. Sikale was referring to, so basically he's looking at the results framework and he looked at the outcome here, I mean the MND metrics, and he looked at the outcome here, which says SADC member states domesticate the SADC model law on preventing child marriages. In order for us to measure progress, we have identified this indicator, a number of countries with national action plans to end child marriage. Now, when you look at this indicator at first value, it seems like it's a very simplistic indicator. But actually, the definition tells us there, it says this indicator measures the number of countries that have officially developed and adopted a national plan of action focused on ending child marriage. Such plans should outline strategic objectives, should outline timelines, budget allocations, and monitoring frameworks, and be aligned with regional and global standards. So you see, we are not just checking if there's an action plan or not, but we are also assessing whether that action plan has timelines, has a budget. So before we tick and say Mozambique has actually an action plan, we want to see the quality of that action plan. And if it's below par, if it doesn't meet the standard, if it's just a written statement, then we are going to call it a statement. It's not an action plan as far as the M&E side of things is concerned. So there are very clear breakdowns of what counts to be counted here as a national action plan. So when you're looking at these indicators, you can take a glance at the definitions. They help quite a great deal. All right, thank you. Unless there are any further hands, there are no further hands, I will move forward. Oh,
Yes,
please
we
go
have a
ahead.
hand. Yeah, from Meron.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Bevis. Since SADC has started this process, and whenever Bevis and the team present, it's what really comes out for me is how this dashboard has aligned all the global and continental regional indicators into one space, which will really help to consolidate, to track, and then it will also save us from referring different documents at different point of time. So that consolidation and alignment is always that's coming out for me as someone working for UNFP, just to say that.
Thank you so much. And that's really one of the standouts of this process. As you can see, first of all, we are all coming from different organizations, and we've recognized different frameworks. And these frameworks speak to each other, but because they sit in separate documents, it becomes very difficult to really harmonize and just look at everything. So what we have done with this framework and with this dashboard is brought everything at once. And you can see at one glance what AU is saying, what SADC is saying, what UNFPA is saying, what your governments are saying. And all this is harmonized, and you can see it at one single glance. So thank you so much for recognizing that. Last one, over to you if there's any other hand.
Yes, Bevis, there's a comment in the chat box from Zanere indicating that governments must allocate enough money and resources to relevant ministries. For example, health, education, and social services. These resources can be used to provide support services such as counseling, healthcare, legal aid, and the like. Then support prevention programs in education, awareness campaigns, and also assist survivors of child marriages. Just to amplify, definitely that's the desire for member states to ensure that they allocate resources, enough resources, of course, to support these social services. And there's an indicator, perhaps, an outcome indicator that looks at the number of countries with budget allocations for implementing child marriage prevention and response programs. And again, you'd realize that this is a multi-sectoral issue. And so you have to consult and look at the budgets allocated perhaps in different sectors, or maybe integrated in different programs. And that is how, if you are justified and perhaps convinced that there is allocation of resources towards these interventions, then you'll be able to provide information for that particular indicator. I just wanted to add to that discourse. Bevis, over to you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. Just may I put a disclaimer that in case you hear a bit of background noise, I'm in a shared space, but I will try to ensure that I'm very audible, and I'll cancel as much noise as possible. But please let me know fellow facilitators. If I should change location in any way, I'll be happy to do so. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank Lasson for that. And just to also emphasize that the definition of the indicator there helps us articulate what Lasson has just said there. So thank you so much. Let's go forward and let's look at the second arm of the model law and the theory of change. And this one is specific to prevention. So the first one is legal framework. So we've dealt with that. It's around domestication. It's around resource allocation. It's around reporting. It's around planning. All right, great. Now let's look at actual prevention. So the goal on prevention is that by 2030, we want to ensure that children at risk of child marriage receive comprehensive support to make informed decisions about their education and sexual and reproductive health with a strong focus on prevention. All right. The impact remains the same. We are eradicating child marriages. That is the impact. And in terms of the outcomes, so the three that have been prioritized, number one is that children in all their diversity, so that includes children, across racial lines, across ethnicity, across ability, across different demographics, basically, in all their diversity, have access to integrated protection services. These include health, education, and life skills. So children must have access to integrated services. The second one is that children in all their diversity demonstrate enhanced sexual, reproductive health and rights knowledge, financial literacy, life skills, and education to prevent child marriages, right? So it's around their own capacity in terms of their knowledge of SRHR, their financial literacy, their own life skills, and access to education, which is a key economic driver for our children and in any society anyway. And this will help us to prevent child marriages. Now, notice how this outcome is loaded, but it's around the capacity, and we want it in a holistic manner. We debated this for a long time, that it probably may not even be smart, but we settled for it because we want the child empowered across all spheres so that they're able on their own to prevent child marriage should they be pressured through these different capabilities and skills. But then we went further and looked at now the systems, and we said we want community reference groups including boys and men, demonstrate positive shifts from harmful social norms and beliefs that promote child marriages, so that, not only should there be a systemic capacity to prevent child marriage, not only should there be an individualized, the agency capacity to prevent marriage, but there must also be, a society around our children that enables them, or that enables the prevention of child marriages. That's what we're looking at. So looking at our cultural practices, our social norms, marriage in itself is predominantly a social and a cultural practice before it's even anything else. And so if we change our social and our cultural practices, we probably can change how marriage is done, and that children should not be married. Bottom line. What are the outputs? These are the areas of focus. These are the things that we must do. Number one, SADC member states must strengthen coordination across education, health, and child protection, and gender responsive services to support children. Secondly, the SADC member states should ensure that formal and non-formal schools provide inclusive quality education that is age appropriate in the area of CSE. Now, I know that some of your countries are dropping the word CSE, and you are developing more flamboyant words, if I were to put it that way. But whatever the case, because the model law speaks of CSE, whatever has replaced that formation around CSE, and we hope it's progressive, and we trust that it's even more comprehensive than what CSE was offering, that is present in both formal and non-formal education spaces. You will notice that this particular framework is attentive to even out of school children. And because most of the interventions have been concentrated in school environments, but we know that child marriages are also happening out of school settings. So it's very important. The third output is around community reference groups. These are our parents, caregivers, traditional leaders, and so on, that they start to challenge harmful social norms, that your chiefs, your traditional leaders should begin to outlaw child marriages in the customary settings, and that they should begin to set up movements that are promoting alternatives to child marriages, right? And then the third one is that girls and boys and men are engaged and they become agents of change themselves, all right? Some of the assumptions we are making here very quickly is that girls have safe and equitable access to education, that your member states are not gender biased against our girls, against children, against females being educated. We're also assuming that boys and men are willing to participate and promote advocacy for gender transformative program, that your gender norms and cultural norms are not so toxic that men and boys are completely distancing themselves from the conversation around ending child marriages. All right. So now let's look at the indicators quickly. So these are the result statements. What are the indicators we are using? So take a moment, look at this, because I'm going to ask you a question afterwards. I'll ask you to remember some of these things just so that we can ensure that we are all speaking the same language. So have a look at it quickly, and then I will move to the next section. All right, so let's look at the indicators. So this one has a little bit more indicators on prevention. So around the impact, despite the impact statement remaining the same, the indicators that have been proposed are varying. So we've got the first indicator, which is proportional women aged 20 to 24. This one is the same as what is being measured on the legal framework. But we have added another indicator here, which is that we want to measure prevalence of child marriages among girls and boys, 18 in member states. And this one is a specific indicator in your member states. So here we are interested in monitoring, is there a decrease in the prevalence of child marriages? So here we are measuring number of children under age 18 who are married, total number of children who are married, who are under 18. So it's really just looking at, if you go into one society, how many children are under 18? If there are 2 million in your country, children that are under 18, we want to check all those 2 million, how many of them are in a marriage? How many 16-year-olds are in a marriage? And that is what is going to give us the prevalence of child marriages in your country, right? So we're measuring that indicator. And we've also measured on outcome number 1, which is around children at risk, including those already in marriages, having access to education and economic empowerment opportunities. Here we're measuring 2 indicators. One is we're measuring proportion of adolescent girls who participate in financial literacy, vocational training, or income generating programs, right? So we are measuring those that are involved in income generation programs. We are also measuring dropout rates for children in primary and secondary schools, right? So that will give us an indication as to whether our children staying in school. Are they completing school? Because education is an economic driver. And if children are being educated, chances are that they will not rush to get married. And also we know that the reason why children are being married off in our rural societies is that marriage itself is seen as an economic viable activity. It brings the dowry. In the meeting we had in Durban, there was a member of parliament who moved a motion to outlaw dowries across the SADC region. And he was very emphatically saying, as long as there is a financial reward for marrying off girls, marriages will still go on. It was a very interesting debate that went on. And I don't know what the end of that debate will go and what it will become of dowries, but it is something that was discussed. And the thinking is that if there is no economic motivation for marriage, then marriage remains a relationship or more of a social decision than an economic decision. At the moment, it is an economic decision. And so education becomes that viable and better economic choice that our girls should be presented with. There are times where girls have been retrieved from child marriages, but they themselves go back and they take themselves to the home. And when you ask why, it's because they think being married is more economically viable than staying in school. And so we need to change that thinking even among our girls so that they will not be dropping out of school. So monitoring that dropout rate tells us a lot of things about our interventions. The third indicator is proportion of adolescent girls who have access to youth-friendly services or to adolescent-friendly sexual, reproductive, and health services. Again, are our girls having access to services? Services include education, include knowledge, but include also other reproductive services that they may need to be able to protect themselves. And should they be in a situation where they are either in a child marriage or if they themselves are being approached by a man to be married, and they want maybe to prolong or not be in a marriage until at a later time. Even though our laws will probably have other aspects that will protect that girl differently, but she must have the choice, should she need to make a choice. That's what we are saying here. Proportion of girls 10 to 24 who have comprehensive sexuality education, also comprehensive sexuality knowledge. And then the last indicator that we are monitoring is proportion of respondents, particularly community leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, willing to introduce sanctions if someone practices child marriage. So this is interesting. We want to check, are your traditional leaders interested in sanctioning people that are perpetrators of child marriages? And the indicator is sponsored, and the definition is looking at percentage of community leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders who support penalties against child marriages. All right. So these are the 7 indicators that we are proposing on prevention. I'll stop for a few seconds there, maybe give you 30 seconds to digest this before I ask any reactions or any comments if they can. All right, great. So here is a small activity. I would like you to mention at least 3 indicators on child marriages. The 3 indicators on prevention of child marriages. Let me hand back over to Lassen to help me with this exercise.
All right, thank you so much, Bevis. Dear colleagues, you can go ahead and mute and make your submissions. I see a hand from Abigail. Please pick it up.
I didn't want to respond on the indicators, but I had a question. I was trying to find a way how I should raise a hand. I couldn't find my computer. I had a problem, but I wanted to comment on the dropout rate. The dropout, is it the dropout rate in general or the dropout rate due to child marriages? Because if we look at the EMIS report, it shows there's dropout rate due to several reasons. So if someone else is collecting that data, they have to keep in mind that is it dropout rate in general or dropout rate due to child marriages or dropout due to teenage pregnancies? There are several reasons why children they drop out of school. So how exactly this indicator is supposed to be measured?
Yes, Bevis.
Thank you for that. And team members, feel free to also jump in should you want to respond to the question. But I could give a response quickly. You are absolutely right. The entry point for this indicator is dropping off. And the definition is that we are looking at children who discontinue formal education. Now, in the analysis of this particular data, you want to find out why. So whenever we are reporting on these indicators, we want to also be able to articulate why. And as you have said it could be because of child marriages, it could be because of pregnancy, it could be because of economic factors, it could be because of different aspects, and it could even be a congruent of all those reasons why somebody drops out. But you can see why it becomes an important indicator for us, because if girls are dropping out specifically, then we know that they are missing out on the economic driver called education, and they are more likely to be susceptible to child marriages and the vicious cycle of economic deprivation of our children, I mean, of women generally. So yes, you are right. So, but the analysis will pull that out as you pick it out. And that's where also qualitative aspects are accompanied whenever we are doing such studies. And we will also have a qualitative aspect and pick out why are girls actually dropping out. And we'll be able to tease that off. Also notice that in the overall framework of this particular area on prevention, we are also tracking teenage pregnancies as an indicator separately. But we also know that it's not every girl who gets pregnant that drops out of school. They may temporarily drop out, but we also are seeing a lot of re-entries of the children getting back to school. So thank you for that brilliant question. And you are right, you must read the entire analysis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see a hand from Evelyn.
Yes,
Please
thank
go ahead.
you. I will contribute. Reading the indicator definition for this prevent indicator of dropout rates and okay. The indicator definition says that the percentage of children who discontinue formal education disaggregated by marital status, yeah. So I understand here that besides the children drop out, we need to understand also the marital status. I don't know if someone understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely, Evelis. I appreciate you there. So what you will notice with these indicators is that in the analysis, we don't only look at just dropout, but we are looking at
Yes.
the parameter of marital status. They're also obviously disaggregated by age, disaggregate by sex, because it's not only girls that will drop out, it will be also boys who may drop out due to child marriage, by the way. We are also seeing boys who are married up and are kept at home by someone. And we've seen these cases. I work for Plan International, and we've been able to retrieve boys out of child marriages as well. So yes, you are absolutely right that the indicator will disaggregate this data across. And marital status is one of those parameters that will be looked at in the data disaggregation, including disability will also be another parameter for disaggregation. So just to put it out there, when data is being collected around such indicators such as prevalence, dropout rate, we obtain what are called social demographics of the respondent. So we'll collect marital status, economic status, education status, we collect age, we collect disability, we collect location, we collect all these aspects. And so when we ask the question, are you currently in school? And if they say no, and then we ask, and we assess and we establish that this is a dropout, we will then be able to run the frequency to see, their dropout, are they educated, are they married, so all this data is actually available when we are doing analysis. So thank you for noting that. I appreciate you. All right. Last one, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Bevis. There are so many other parameters that we look at, and there's a lot of triangulation of data points as we analyze that information. Definitely, those are different parameters we consider. There's a comment from Zanere indicating that proportion of girls aged 10 to 24 who have comprehensive sexual and reproductive health knowledge. This indicator looks at CSE or life skills education. Therefore, informed girls are less likely to enter child marriages. I would want to agree with that statement. Definitely, once we see that there's increased knowledge of comprehensive sexual and reproductive health, and again, also definitely the life skills have improved over time, because then they are kept occupied with different aspects of their livelihoods. They are not likely to engage, in these other aspects, or rather, they may not even decide to go into early marriage. And so these are parameters that really need to be amplified moving forward. Bevis, would you want to comment to that before I come back to Abigail?
Not necessarily. I think you hit it spot on. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Abigail, is that the same hand or it's a new one?
Oh, this one is a new one. It's on the same indicator on the comprehensive sexuality reproductive health knowledge. On that one, I understand really it's important to measure the knowledge, but the key indicator I would love if it could have been the use proportion of girls aged 10 to 24 who are using SRHR products like family planning and any other services related to SRHR. And also on the same line, under the result code, there is also mention of protection, improved protection from all forms of violence, but there is no indicator that is measuring this component.
Okay, great. So for the protection side of things, you shortly will be looking at that results area, and we should be able to have an indicator measuring the protection side of elements. But then your suggestion around an additional indicator considering use of family planning, for example, I must mention that we had quite a number of indicators that we needed to consider, but then we agreed and resolved collectively that we may want to prioritize just a few, but that does not mean that that indicator is thrown away completely. These are additional indicators that can actually be followed up upon. But I mean, your submission is well noted. Perhaps it's something that may require consideration. Bevis?
Yes, no, absolutely. Appreciate that thinking. And as you can see, we are also looking at, because indicators are entry points. They're indicative. Okay, they're just giving us to say, this is probably where things are going. So, for example, while it might be good to measure at this level, for example, maybe proportion of girls that reported using a condom at the last time they had sex, because that is the absolute probably indicator that tells you did they use a condom the last time they had sex. So which is quite a notorious indicator in SRHR. We laugh about it oftentimes when we are going to the field to collect data on this, because then people even ask to say, the last time they had sex, are you referring to the last round they had sex or the last time? So it becomes a very debatable aspect. But bottom line is you are measuring such an indicator, which becomes more complex. But when you look at the indicator proportion of adolescents who have access to adolescent-friendly services, that gives us an indication, just tells us if they actually access the condom, that is actually a starting point that they probably went to use it. So these are assumptions that we make, and then we can then, in the detailed evaluation, you can then look at what actually happened to the condoms that they took, and that can be measured separately. But that doesn't mean these are not being measured. In your member states, you also have DHS being conducted. Most of you also have sexual reproductive and health surveys that are conducted routinely in your member states. So all these can also help for us to have more information. But we will take that feedback and discuss with the team if we want to have that as part of this framework. The SRHR scorecard, I know, does have something in that regard, but I'll have a look to also verify. All right. Thank you for these healthy conversations. Last one, is there anyone before I do the last one and we move to the next session?
Not at all. I think we can proceed. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. I'm going to race through the next one because I think now you have warmed up. And let's look at the third one, which is around protection. So protection is a little bit more loaded. So protection, the goal itself says that by 2030, there are 3 line ministries we are mostly interested in: health, education, and justice. Systems in member states have strengthened, states are strengthened to deliver comprehensive protection and support to children at risk of marriage, those already in marriage, and survivors, ensuring they have access to essential services and rights as defined by the SADC model law, right? So it's about these particular ministries having capacity and that they are delivering services that young people can access to protect themselves, particularly children, protect themselves from child marriages. There are 4 outcomes here. The impact remains the same. We want to eradicate child marriages. But the first one is focused on access to education and economic empowerment opportunities. So we saw this from the prevention side, but we also see this from the protection side, that children are actually able to access education and economic empowerment opportunities, enabling them to achieve greater independence and stability to protect themselves. The second one is around having coordinated mechanisms that are accessible and that are gender responsive, where children are able to access legal recourse, social protection, psychosocial support, and across whether they are at risk or whether they are in a marriage or whether they are survivors. So this outcome is looking at that there's a coordinated mechanism, particularly under health, legal resource, social protection, and psychosocial, the one-stop approach to protecting our children. All right. So the third one is that children at risk, including those in marriages and those that are survivors of marriages, have awareness, of their rights and autonomy, and have improved protection from all forms of violence, exploitation, and abuse. Right? So this is where that aspect, and we hope that the indicators will satisfy the question asked by the earlier speaker. And then the fourth one is around, again, that there is community reference groups. So your parents, your caregivers, traditional leaders, they're demonstrating positive shifts from harmful social norms and beliefs, and that promote child marriages. All right. What do we need to do? Number one, we need to promote formal and informal quality education in order for us to realize this outcome around economic empowerment. We need to promote coordinated mechanisms among health, SRHR, GBV, child protection systems, and that they're providing integrated, child-friendly, and gender-responsive services for children at risk and already in marriages. We also want SADC member states to increase awareness and access to legal and psychosocial services for children at risk and those already in marriages and survivors. And then the third one is around social norms, and these community reference groups are capacitated, and they are capacity building programs that are challenging social norms, that are promoting a shift to these a shift away from norms that are promoting child marriages. So that is this framework. what are the indicators? They're quite a mouthful. Let's look at them. First of all, I'm going to show you 4 of them. At impact level, we've got 3. So the first one is obviously tracking the SDG 5.3.1. This one, you already have it. You already know it. The second one is tracking proportional adults and girls who remain unmarried. So you can see how that at legal reform, we just focused on tracking the SDG. At prevention, we looked at those that are below 18 who are actually married. So we're looking at prevention. At protection, we are looking at those who remain unmarried. So we're looking at the other dimension of the children that are unmarried. So this dashboard is going to tell you at simply clicks of fingers what is the current rate of child marriages in your country. It will tell you the prevalence of child marriages in your member state. It will also tell you the prevalence of girls that are being protected from child marriage. So that becomes very important to have all this at one glass, existing obviously in legal protection and prevention. All right. And then in terms of outcome number 2, which is around access to protection and including health and education and life skills, we're looking at percentage of household income among families participating in economic programs. All right. So percentage increase in household income among families participating in. So you can see this indicator, it measures the percentage change in household income among families engaged in economic programs. So we not only want families engaged in economic programs, but we also want to see that there is actually an increase in their income. All right. All those social protection programs, the social grants that we are doing in our countries, in our member states, are they changing the income bracket of these families? All right. The other set of indicators is looking at transition rates from primary to secondary. So are children transitioning? And if you can think about it in the context of gender, when you disaggregate this by gender, that we're going to actually see who is transitioning more. And you can see the politics around child marriages playing out. Then there's proportion of children integrating CSE into the proportion of schools integrating CSE in their curricula. Also, percentage of out-of-school children, especially girls and marginalized children, accessing formal and non-formal education. Around social norms, we are tracking percentage of parents and caregivers who express support for delaying child marriages. We're also looking at percentage a reduction in cultural practices. So the actual practices, are they stopping or are they changing or transforming to become less permissive of child marriages? So is our initiation ceremony preventing child marriages? Are they happening to promote child marriages? So we need to look at all that. And this indicator investigates those ceremonies and those traditional practices and is able to pick out if they are promoting or enabling child marriages. And then the final one is proportion of boys and men who demonstrate positive attitudes towards girls' education and empowerment. This is SDG 5.B1. All right. So these are the indicators that we are monitoring on protection. All right. These are the indicators we are monitoring on protection. All right. Now, with that said, I must confess that these are not the only indicators in our framework. These are what we are calling the core indicators. And at the end of this, I'll also show you a spreadsheet that has all the other indicators that may have not been presented here. But these are the ones that we are saying are core for us to track at this level. All right. Back to Lasson, please help me to facilitate this part of the session. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Colleagues, any quick reflections? Any areas of clarification? Please feel free to unmute and make your submission. But even as we think of the same, I saw a comment from Abigail confirming that the DHIS2 has data on number of young people aged 10 to 24 who used family planning services by method. I think this is also disaggregated, perhaps by sex or regions or locations where data was collected. Thanks, Abigail, for that confirmation. Yeah, any comments? Any other submissions? Or maybe Abigail, you'd want to amplify that submission you made? Okay. Colleagues, any comments?
Okay, it was just a follow-up comment to the question that I raised earlier that in terms
Sure.
of data, DHIS2 has data on the young people aged 10 to 24 by age group and also by family planning method.
Sure. Thank you so much, Abigail. Any other comments? Is everything clear at this point? Is there any area of concern that you feel need clarification? Please feel free. We are all learning and we want to make sure that every one of us, we are on the same page. So at the moment we begin to look at that data, it will be easier for us to, appreciate where it is coming from and its importance. Any comment? Okay, Bevis, seemingly there are no comments. I can't see any hand being raised. Obviously, we could be clear at this stage. Perhaps I would suggest we move on to the next segment.
Thank you so much, colleagues, and thank you, Lasson, for facilitating that. So this is the indicator framework, and as mentioned to all of you, that these are not all the indicators that are in the framework. We have more than this, but these are what we are calling the core indicators. And perhaps, thanks, Abigail, for that submission. We can definitely take more consideration when we review and as we are finalizing the dashboard. Part of this process is to also get feedback, and we are more than accommodating. So let me just give you an example right now of the indicators that are certainly in the overall framework. Your screens are going to run wild because it's an Excel spreadsheet, but I believe you've understood already. But this is what it actually looks like, the overall framework. And this is, for example, on prevention. The ones in pink are the core ones which we presented to you, but we have more than that. So we have things like proportion of children that are accessing SRH services. We've got participating rate of youth and adults in formal and non-formal education. We've got number of community-based awareness campaigns. So it shows you that there is more than what we've presented, but what we've decided is to focus more on the core. And you can have a look at these indicators and let us know if anything else should be included, and we'll be more than willing to do so. So thank you so much. I'll end here with this part of the session. We're going to go into the second session, which will be focused on now looking at the dashboard and its architecture. But let me give you a 5-minute water break. 5-minute water break. Let's take some water, let's stretch, and then we'll come back at 11:05 and then take the session forward. Yeah, thank you. All right, just checking if people are back. Just give a thumbs up if you're back and keep it up until we drop it so we know who's back. See, Maron is back. Zanele is back. Abigail is back. Great, great, great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Annette is back. Good. All right, thank you very much. I think we have everybody that needs to be here. Let me hand over and introduce our facilitator for this second part of the session. Let me invite Kudzai to come and take us forward. Over to you, Kudzai.
Thank you, Bevis. I'm not sure, am I audible enough?
You're very clear, and we can
Great.
see the screen as well.
Great. All right. So my name is Kudzai Katsaya, like I've introduced before. I'm the MND manager for Plan Mozambique. So I'll be taking you through this navigation of the dashboard, which is in Tableau. Maybe just to emphasize that we adopted Tableau as our dashboard because it's extremely easy to use. So as you will see also that even the way it is looking, we tried by all means to simplify it for your use. Basically, the goal of this session is not just to show you what the dashboard looks like, but to help you feel confident enough using to explore data and also extract insights that are relevant to how we have to visualize the data. So this dashboard, it has been designed to provide a clear and interactive view of key information so that it allows you to move beyond those static reports and engage directly with the data. So as we go through it, myself and Bevis, we will highlight how the different components are structured, how you can apply filters, let's say maybe when you want to see data for your own country without seeing all countries, and how to interact with the visuals to answer specific questions. And also how you can even see a single visual without opening the entire dashboard, which might be clogged with a lot of visuals at once. So I encourage you to think of this as a hands-on tool, and rather than focusing on memorizing steps, focus on understanding how to explore, because that's where the real value of Tableau lies. And by the end of this walkthrough, which I would do, you should be able to comfortably navigate the dashboard, customize views based on your needs, and use it to support your analysis and decision making. So let me try to move to the next slide. Okay, so like in terms of can be interpreted and made use of, especially how you do your decision making. One country, rather than seeing all the other countries, but just seeing your data for your own different visualizations, including charts, heat maps, and also traffic lights. Then also how to extract insights in terms of how you can make decisions based on what you are seeing in terms of your data. So our dashboard, it's mainly about tracking progress, strengthening accountability, and also supporting evidence-based decision making so that we end child marriage. So you'll see that inside the dashboard, the data that we have, like Bevis has indicated, are the core indicators It's not necessarily that we have included all the indicators, but we have only put the core indicators that are particularly important to track for now as we speak. So you see that there are existing indicators at national level, regional level indicators, so that at least we ensure that there's consistency and comparability across the countries. Then also collation of the data and analysis so that we can generate reliable insights and track progress over time. Then the data will be on also accessible on a mobile device. I'm sure some of you who managed to be attending our meeting in Georgia, you actually saw that when Bevis was presenting, you could actually navigate the dashboard on a mobile cell phone. So it brings that ease to see wherever you are. Even if you don't have a laptop, you can actually see that data in the dashboards on your particular mobile device. Then we have data sources that are already funded because we are leveraging on different data sources. So you see that when we get to the validation and verification of the data, you can even be referencing data sources like the UN data sources, World Bank data sources, as long as they are giving you credible data, which is current and up to date, which you can use. Then the use for decision making, so that at least we can inform our policies, programs, and also resource allocation. Then finally, visualizations. So as you will see in the dashboards, like I've indicated, we have different visuals. We have heat maps, we have charts, we have traffic lights. At least those things, they enable you to be visualizing your data so freely, so easily, without making any hassle. So that at least you understand and communicate and appreciate the data in a very simplified manner. First of all, for you now to understand, maybe perhaps we have colleagues here on this call who we have not interacted with Tableau before. So for you to understand Tableau, you have to ask yourself two very important questions. What is data visualization, and why is that visualization important? But first of all, maybe understanding what Tableau is. So Tableau is a data visualization software that connects easily to any data source. Like I've indicated, we have data sources at national level, at regional level, at an international level, as long as they are giving us credible data that we need, which is current. Tableau also allows for that instant insight by transforming data into interactive visualizations called dashboards, which I'll be presenting in a few moments from now. So Tableau, like I've indicated, it connects to data, Excel, databases, or Google Sheets. And in the meantime, our Tableau is connecting to our Microsoft Excel. So I think some of you have actually seen the Excel that we are using, where we have all those various indicators which we are populating. So we are connecting to our Excel spreadsheets where we are populating the data. Then we import that data now into Tableau. So Tableau also lets you build charts and graphs. It combines multiple visuals into interactive dashboards. That's why you see that when I present the dashboard, you'll be having maybe maps and also traffic lights under the same dashboard, so that at least there are multiple visuals all at once presented. It also enables you to filter. Like I indicated, you can filter just for your own country to see what your country outlook is looking like in terms of the data. You can even see what the other countries are, how they are performing. You can even see how each and every particular indicator is performing, so that you can just filter based on your particular need, what you need at that particular moment in time. So visualization is the process of describing information through visuals. What you see there in the dashboards, where you see those charts, etc. So it's an issue of just turning data into the dashboards, so that at least you can understand what trends are emanating, what patterns are coming out, and if there are any insights which are coming out, so that at least you can easily interpret your data. So this is important because, number one, it simplifies complex data, so that at least those large data sets are easier to understand. It reviews patterns and trends. Like I've indicated, at least you can see what is happening. Has there been any increase in terms of maybe school dropouts? Has there been any decrease maybe in terms of child marriage? And also interpreting the relationship so much quickly. So at least those visuals are there for you to make data simpler to understand. It also supports decision making, then improves communication so that at least it's actually clearer to see. Maybe for a layman who doesn't understand data more easily, at least if you show them a picture or a chart, it will be easier for them to comprehend and understand that particular data. Right. So in our current dashboard, these are the visualizations that we have. Like I indicated, we have heat maps, so that at least it simplifies things. So on a heat map, you realize that we have color coding, where perhaps a red color indicates that something maybe might not be in existence as yet. Let's say, for example, the issue of legal marriage, legal age of marriage, maybe in a country has not yet been introduced. So you see that on a map, perhaps that country will be having a red color. Maybe an amber, it would mean that perhaps that legal age of marriage is still under deliberation or is still being considered as to whether to be passed or not. That's why we'll be having an amber. But then a green will be very much good in terms of our interpretation. It would mean that at least everything is there, everything is available. Maybe a law has been passed in regards to that particular parameter that we'll be measuring. So again, traffic lights, we have also put them in color codes, where, like I indicated, that a red maybe it's a variable showing that there's absence of something. Amber maybe still being deliberated and still under development. Then green showing that that thing is actually available and in existence and has already been introduced. Then we also have charts. So at least the charts that maybe line charts, for example, they'll be showing you the trends and the patterns. Perhaps maybe in 2016, we had 20% in terms of school dropouts. And now in 2024, 2025, we are now on 10%, showing that progression that at least there's school dropouts are reducing, which shows us the patterns and the trends and the relationships that are actually happening there. We also have pie charts. We also have bar charts. Then also donuts, again showing you the status of where we are in terms of that particular variable. I'm not sure for now if there are any questions, Lasson, in the chat box before I move over to the dashboard itself.
No, there are no questions. We are okay.
Okay. All right. No, that's okay. So colleagues, please feel free to ask as I'll be showing you this dashboard. Please feel free to ask where you have questions, where you're not understanding. I'll definitely, myself and Bevis will definitely be open to receiving your questions. Right.
Sorry,
so
just
this is our tableau dashboard.
note. Sorry,
Okay,
could
yeah,
I
Bevis.
just to note,
Yes.
just to note that I see that SG has joined us. She's been in the chat for a while. SG, thank you so much for making time to be with us again today. She was with us on Tuesday, and she's with us today. We are humbled by your commitment and by your dedication to this process. Thank you so much. Should you want to greet the colleagues or say anything, please feel free to do so at any point. Thank you so much. Right. Could I over back to you? Thank you.
Oh, okay, all right. No, that's fine. Right. So, colleagues, this is our dashboard. So, like I indicated, we have, like Bevis has indicated initially, we have different parameters here which we'll be measuring. And for now, we have three overall thematic areas, which is the legal, the protection, and the prevention. So below these overall three thematic areas, that's where we have various core indicators that we have put inside the dashboard. But not to say that we are not going to incorporate other indicators. This is just at least for you to see what the dashboard looks like and how it's going to be appearing for your comprehension. So first of all, under legal, remember Bevis actually indicated three particular indicators, core indicators, which you can see here. So, like for example, the legal age of marriage, you can see these color codes that when you just put the cursor on a specific country, it can actually give you an indication of where that country is in terms of the progression against this particular indicator. Bevis is going to explain some of the meanings of these aspects, but maybe just for you to understand that, let's say, for example, when you are from DRC, when we put the color coding of red, for you to understand that perhaps the minimum legal age of marriage has not yet been passed. So that's why it's in red, meaning that there hasn't been any progress in terms of that discussion in terms of the legal age of marriage. Then when you come to the amber, for example, Namibia is in amber, meaning that perhaps it's still under consideration and under discussion, maybe at parliamentary level, for them to introduce the minimum legal age of marriage in that country. Then these greens, for example, Zimbabwe, at least you can see that already they've introduced the minimum legal age of marriage to be 18. So this is the burden now for you to be going again to looking at the data maybe from a different data source. When you just come and show your case on a specific country, at least you can see where it is in terms of the level of the again, Madagascar here, it's in amber, showing that again is still under consideration and still being deliberated upon. Then we have, for example, again, the national action plans. First of all, okay, let me go back again to the legal age of marriage. This is a map, as you can see here. So this is a visualization in terms of a heat map where you can actually tell by the color coding. But now when you come to the national action plan here, this is a chart where you can actually see that when you come to any specific country, it can show you that, for example, all these countries, they know they've not introduced as yet national action plans in their countries. And those ones where there's a yes, there is an indication of the specific year when that national action plan was introduced. So at least it enables you now to see and verify which country now has an action plan or not, and when it was actually introduced. So these ones with a no, it actually means that we can't even tell if they are still under deliberation or not, but it's actually a measure which we are going to also introduce to say, okay, we can link to a data source in this dashboard to see maybe are they now starting to deliberate upon it or not, or which stage are they at the moment in terms of deliberating against that particular variable. Then we go to budget allocations, for example. Again, it's a map. We put a map so that at least it enables you to see which countries actually now have budget allocations for prevention and response to early child marriage. So in this instance, again, in terms of our color coding, DR Congo, you can see that it has not yet introduced any budget allocation. Angola again, and also Tanzania, together with Botswana, they have not yet introduced any budget allocations. But when we see these greens now, it shows that they have now introduced budget allocations regarding to prevention and response to early child marriage. But maybe let me ask them to also say, this data, this raw data that we used when we created this dashboard, we're using secondary data sources which we're seeing over the internet. So when you do a validation exercise and verification, depending on the data sources that you use, please feel free to be questioning all these elements that are there. So for example, if you feel that you are from DR Congo and you feel that already there's a minimum legal age of marriage, please feel free to indicate that yes, it has now been introduced, and also maybe give us an indication of the year in which it was introduced, so that we can update our heat maps here or our any visualizing that we have. Then we can update, because we're just using the data that we just are seeing on the internet. So I'm sure Bevis is also going to be explaining that in terms of the validation, but just to indicate that, please feel free to be indicating if you feel that this raw data is not up to date.
Thank
Yes,
you, Kutsai. I think, yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for bringing me in on this one. Just to emphasize that the purpose of this presentation is twofold. Obviously, to build your capacity in being able to navigate through the dashboard, but also to make you aware of the status of the data we have as you rightly said, Kudzai, it was through desk research that we collected this information. Of course, we were being extensive as much as possible. In a few places, we did contact a few people, but we would like for you in the member states to take this forward and be able to validate, but also provide us. So for example, this National Action Plan, Kudzai, maybe you want to show the graph on its own. If you can show the graph on its own, just so that we can give users as an example. So what Kudzai just did is what you can also do when you are presenting the data. You can click on the indicator on its own and be able to access the data, just what he did there. But you can also come to the tab like he did on the legal framework and then access all the indicators. I think there is also a small scroll down, the arrow at the end there, Kudzai, that then brings all the indicators. I think on the far left, yes, right. If you click on it, it also lists the catalog of the indicators that we have. So if you are navigating, that is very helpful. Now, this is the one on national action plans. When you go to the indicator definition of national action plans that we have in the system, that I shared earlier, you will notice that national action plans is not just having a plan. The definition of the indicator, let me quote so that we all just reminded. So the definition of the indicator on national action plans says that, one moment, I'm just opening it now. Yeah. So it says that with regards to national action plan, says this indicator measures the number of countries that have officially developed and adopted a national plan of action focused on ending child marriage. Such a plan should outline, number one, strategic objectives, timelines. It must have budget allocation and a monitoring framework that is aligned with the regional and global standards, such as the African Union Campaign to End Child Marriage, the SDG Target 5.3, and the SADC Model Law on Ending Child Marriages. So, when collecting data to validate whether the country has a national action plan, there is a scorecard that has been developed by UNFPA, UNICEF, and also the UN Campaign on Ending Child Marriage that measures this. And they tick. And only when a country meets those particular parameters that have been explained, will that plan be ticked as a national plan of action. So what you are seeing on the screen here is that there were inconsistencies in some of the plans that were being found here. So in some countries, we could not find any of them. And then in some countries, even when we found the plan maybe did not have an M&D framework. The plan did not have a budget. The plan did not align with the objectives of these frameworks. And so it was not possible to count it as a plan. So this is one of those graphs that we want to reproduce after validation. So we would like for you to help us to look at your plans in the countries, your national action plan, and be able to say this national action plan exists, it meets the indicator parameters, and we can therefore say, let it be green, so that we can also populate a green, red, amber for this particular graph. At the moment, what you are seeing here is incomplete because of the lack of reliable evidence for us to be able to measure this. We're also looking at data from UNFPA in each of your member states, and it's good that UNFPA is here. So please look at your data on what you have scored on these parameters so that we can up-to-date data for each member state of this indicator. So that's the first one I wanted to mention. The second one I want also to focus on is if you come back to the minimum age for marriage graph. Kudzai. Thank you so much. Yes. So this particular one, now this particular one, if you don't mind, Kudzai, just resize your screen maybe to about 100% so we can see it fully on our screens. Excellent. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. You've just moved it properly. That's fine. That's perfect where you are. You can leave it there. So what you will notice on this one is that, and we had a big debate. For example, Angola, when you go online, Angola has adopted 18 as the minimum age for marriage. However, we discovered that Angola does provide for recognizing marriages in the customary setting that can marry off children that are below the age of 18. So for us, that particular finding then negates the idea of what we are trying to achieve, which is zero tolerance to child marriages. So if a child can still be married because people are able to consent, then we will not achieve. Remember, our impact statement is eradicate. We're not saying tolerate, we're saying eradicate. So there must be zero tolerance. So that's why Angola is in red. And so we would like to see what your validation exercise will bring. But as long as our data is showing that in some of your legislation, there is tolerance for a child to be married, then for us it will still remain a red. There are some countries like Namibia where the law of absolutely abolishing child marriages across all spheres, traditional, civil, customary, is in play based on what we have found. We have put it amber because we know that there is a process that had begun, and that process is almost in its conclusive stages at the time that we were inputting this data. What the validation would like for you to help us do is go and check with your parliaments and see if this law has come to force, and if indeed it also has zero tolerance for child marriages, according to the way the SADC model law articulates the legal age for marriage. So that we can then flip Namibia to green, or should we keep them amber? And so that's what it means when you see these color codings here for this particular parameter or indicator. Any questions or any comments on this at this stage? Right. I think it's fairly clear in this regard. Then let's still on the legal protection. I mean, on the legal framework. There is also the area of budget allocation for prevention. If you can click on that one, then we can probably bring it home. So on this particular indicator relating to budget allocation, the definition reads, this indicator measures the number of countries that have designated budget allocation, either through dedicated lines or integrated sectoral budgets for implementing child marriage prevention and response activities. These allocations must be formally reflected in the national or sub-national budgets and should report costed interventions aligned with national actions or strategies. That's what the definition says. So those that are in red, you may find that, I'll pick DRC, for example. We could not find a budget that articulates the clearly itemized aspects or interventions or programs related to ending child marriages. And so we are not recognizing just a general budget on gender. We are very specific. It must align with programming around ending child marriages. So even when you go to do your validation, you may get pushback to say, there is a budget. The question that you must ask is that budget directly supporting programs or interventions that are ending child marriage, or at least addressing issues related to child marriage in terms of prevention, protection, and legal frameworks, as we have articulated. So we would like for you to wear a very political hat and be on the side of the children. Take sides with children as you are discussing these aspects, because you know that data is political, and our governments would like to look good, but it doesn't help to look good when our children are actually still suffering from the vice of child marriage. So I would want to implore you to be on the side of the children, to be very critical before you help us to flip. A red is good if there's still a gap, because then it keeps telling them something must be done, than to flip it to green. And then we know that underneath that green, there's a lot of weaknesses, right? So a budget is a budget, must be very clear. So that's the kind of attitude we'd like to promote with which you go with this validation, because you will get pushback from our leaders. And you know that, as I've mentioned, politically, they would want to look good, but it doesn't help unless we are really good. All right. So thank you for those three that we've discussed so far. Kudzai, over back to you. Maybe you can run through the protection quickly and the prevention, and then we can see where we land. Thank you. What's that?
All right, thank you, Bevis. Yeah, so the protection now, we managed to also put like some traffic lights here, so that at least they show you the progression as to whether a country is in a positive trajectory or in a negative trajectory. Like, for example, the issue of the school dropout rates here, like for Angola, you can see that in 2016 it was 18%, and in 2023 it decreased to 14%. So it was now we managed to put an amber for this, because what we did was all those indicators which scored between 10 to 20, we're putting an amber. All those which scored 10% and below, we put a green, and those which were above 20%, we put a red, showing that they are making very slow progress in terms of addressing the issue of the school dropout rates. So, like for example, here again, Botswana, 2016, it was on 6%, and 2023 it's now on 4%, which is showing a very good positive progression in terms of lowering their school dropout rates. Then again, proportion of women aged 20 to 24 married or in a union before 15 and before 18. Again, we managed to put some color coding based on what we are seeing, whether there was a progression or not, or whether there was an increase or not. Which the same again on SRHR. We actually put also some color coding based on this. Bevis, I'm not sure if you want to maybe explain a bit on this.
Thank you. So proportion of adolescent girls who have access to youth-friendly services. Let me get the indicator definition as well for us. You can actually open the tab so they can see it in full.
Which one do you want, Bevis?
The same indicator that you've mentioned. So the proportion, the SDG 5.3.1.
Okay.
Right. So this indicator is focusing on proportion of women 2024 years who were married or in a union age 15 and before. Just 1 second. It's at 5.3.1. Yes. Yes, I have the right indicator. Apologies for that. So with this indicator specifically, the definition is that, and we have all the definitions in your framework as I showed you. So it's just a matter of you reading and understanding it. So it's looking at the number of women aged 20 to 24 who were first married or in a union before the age of 15. So basically, it's a survey that samples women, and specifically is looking at women that are between the age of 20 to 24, and it's asking them the question as to when did they get married, or if they have ever been married, when did they get married? And it's looking at how many of those women were married before 15 and how many were married before 18. And this gives us the proportion of women who were married before they were married as children. So basically that's what that indicator shows. And you can see here in terms of the way we have color coded it. So you can see that all those that are below the percentage of 10, we have given them a green, below the age of before the percentage of, so below 10%, we have given it a green, meaning we are making some positive progress. Remember, the target is 0. But at least if we start to see that, so you will see when the depth of the green, I'm not sure how good your screens are, but the closer you are to 0, the greener you will be. And the further away you are from 0, your green begins to become light. So we have that capability of also shading. So we'd like to be fully green, deep green, which is a 0, like Seychelles, that's at 2%. And Mauritius also at 2%. But then anything between 11 and 30% is being presented amber, and anything above 30% is presented a red. But again, the higher you are, the more red you become. So you can see there DRC is at 34. It looks like a slight red compared to Malawi, which is at 42, which has a very deep red, and Mozambique at 48 with a very, very deep red. So basically, that's how this color coding is working. And the target is that we should all begin to reflect green. You can see that in our region so far, only 5 countries are in green. The rest of us are at least above 20% of our children being married off, or of women being married off while their children. The way to think about it for a statistic like Mozambique is close to half of the women were married as children. Half of the women were married as children. So this is very, very frightening. And yeah, so that's how we should be reflecting on these numbers. Yeah. All right. Shall we just look at one last one and then maybe open up for questions? I think it's very clear what the dashboard does. Any other one that we can look at? So maybe on prevention, then we can start looking at the validation exercise.
Yeah, maybe we can look at the issue of the household income increase, because perhaps people might ask, why are we having reds here for the baseline and the current values? So why we are having reds is because we could not find any data for during our desk research. Like for Angola, we could not find has there been any increase in terms of household income for youth economic empowerment programs. Again, still it's under our SDG 513. So don't be shocked if you are seeing reds on your member state, because it's just that we couldn't find any data. So that's why it's very important that when you do a validation, at least you provide us with the particular data for the baseline and the current value. And for the current value, we are expecting an aging people to be using at least 2025 as the recent current value, so that at least we have accurate and recent data. As you can see, also these ones which are in green, Eswatini, for example, the baseline value in 2016 was 18, now it's 34, showing an increase, which is a good progression rate. Again, Namibia, South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, all showing green ratings. So please, when you do the validation exercise, provide us with the current value so that at least we have the current values. So it's again the same with what we have here. We just did a color code like Bevis was indicating that there were specific parameters. We're looking at the scales that are being determined by the particular statues. That's why you see maybe something is in red, something is in green. But otherwise, I think Bevis, like you've indicated, people have now understood how to just navigate with the dashboard. Not particularly sure if you want to explain anything or to entertain questions.
Not necessarily. Maybe just to say that with the color codes, we were mostly looking at the standards that have been set, particularly, I must say, by the UN agencies. So, for example, the standard on transition rates, in terms of the target that has been set, the target on budgets, and that's what would then inform us as to, those that are getting closer to the budget would then be given a red, a green, and those that are further away would be a red. So that's how those are figured out. And I think what we would do as we send you the validation pack, we will then also provide you the interpretation for each of these graphs in terms of the target, so that you can also know what we are dealing with. Kudzai, I think that will also just help. But it's all also in the indicator definition that we are dealing with. All right. I think at this stage, Kudzai, we are safely to say that people know how to navigate through the dashboard. I'm going to ask that you all look at your chart. I have put the link to the dashboard. You can click on it, play around with it for a few seconds here and there, and see if you have any questions for us on any challenges that you see when you are trying to navigate through. Yeah, just to give you a minute or so, just try and click, see, is there anything that you want to know from myself, Kudzai, and the team, and before we can then wrap up this session.
Bevis, there was a hand from Torani, if that submission can be made, but I see the hand has been dropped.
Thank you, Lasso.
Torani, are you able to chip in? Please, we want to hear from your thoughts. Okay, that's fine. So, Bevis, we can proceed.
All right. Thank you so much. I trust that you all now are capable of navigating through the dashboard. Let's conclude this session now in terms of what does the validation then now entail, and how would this be conducted going forward. Thank you so much, Kudzai. I know he has to drop off to another meeting, so Kudzai, feel free to drop off if you have to. Thank you so much for your facilitation there. All right, so colleagues, in terms of the validation process for this dashboard, the first disclaimer I need to make, as we've been emphasizing, is that the data within the dashboard is not 100% accurate, in the sense that in some places we probably were unsure with the data source to rely on. And we picked what we thought was what was acceptable. And so there's a chance that you may have a different data source. However, I can confirm to you that the reliability of our data is probably at least above 85%, because we did our very best to get and we looked at multiple data sources. And as you've seen, all this data, none of it is not in the public domain. So we didn't pick any data because we did our own data collection. No, this data has been collected by institutions that have been approved by your member states to collect data and be able to publish it. So we didn't publish any report. We didn't look at any report that hasn't been published officially. So the only aspect that maybe with this dashboard is that we maybe used data that at that particular time, maybe, so for example, we may have used 2024 data and maybe your country has 2025 data. So that's going to be exciting, and let's change it. Also, we may have maybe not seen the report and we've left the data as new because it was not maybe uploaded online, or maybe it is in a language, because most of us, apart from maybe Kudzai and a few others who are French and Portuguese speaking, most of us who were validating are also English speaking, from English speaking countries. So that's why we want every member state to validate, because you may have the report maybe uploaded on a website that is in French, and maybe because of our language biases, we didn't manage to pick up the data. So that's why we would like for you to validate this data. So I'm going to be showing you in this process how you will do the validation exercise itself. You're also encouraged, as you share around the link that we have provided, to put this disclaimer that this is not final. This data is being validated. It's very important. And we will also put on the dashboard as of tomorrow, when we are sending everything, we will also put a big disclaimer to say data undergoing through validation, just so that you don't run in trouble with somebody quoting us and saying that, you know, we have, and that's why you've seen the dashboard we have sent. We've not put even the logos of the institutions, just to protect ourselves, that somebody should not go and say, SADC have said this, or planners said this. Not yet. So when you validate and you have validated it, then we will put all the necessary logos and everything. Then it becomes official. At that point, somebody can quote us and we'll be able to defend our data. All right. So that's why we are still using the Tableau version that we've sent you, which does not have any form of organization, logos and things like that, just so that people can realize that it's not yet finally official. We are launching in July in Seychelles, and that is when this data can be taken as far as possible to everywhere, and we know we can defend it because we have validated it. So that's very important to know. So how will you validate? The first step is that you will be doing it with country teams. So in each of the member state that is represented here, there is, in all your member states, there is at least a SADC researcher, SADC PF researcher, or at least somebody representing SADC in your member state. But what we have done also as a support mechanism is that we have assigned a member of the team from the technical working group to support each member state. And so these slides will be sent to you. If they've not been sent, you probably have already received them. This is the second slide in the third presentation. And it has the name and the organization of the member that has been assigned. We'll go ahead. In fact, probably we should add their email address so that it's just easy in case you're the one that wants to reach them. But don't worry about even trying to reach them. What they will do is that they are going to send an email to all of you in your member state that have participated here. And they will start a conversation around validation. All right. So these are the people that are going to support you. So don't worry, you're not alone. There is a technical expert in the team that is going to work with you. What will you be doing? The first step that we need to do in terms of validation is to identify the stakeholders that need to validate this data. All right. And there are 4 steps that you need to take to identify the stakeholders. Number 1 is you have to look at the indicators per section. So you will look at, for example, in legal frameworks. You look at the indicators in the legal frameworks, the 5 indicators there. And when you review that indicator, you will then identify the data sources that have been listed. So the indicator frameworks we've given you have data sources. So for example, the indicator percentage of children married before the age of 18. The data source is a household survey done by DHS. Okay. So when you identify that data source, you can then ask yourself to say, who is the possible custodian of this data source? That is step number 3. So you determine in your country who are the custodians of DHS. It is your National Statistical Office. At National Statistical Office, who is the right person to speak to about child marriages? Because something also that you must remember is that each of the areas, even within Central Statistical Office, you find that they have a breakdown of different departments that are responsible for running different aspects of the DHS. So you find maybe they are clinicians that are running maybe the health side of things. Then you find maybe there are social workers that are leading, running the aspect of things with social protection. So there are different experts within there. So you need to identify who is the custodian and who should then we speak to validate the statistics that we have. Other than identifying who's a technical custodian, also ask yourself who has the mandate to be able to say, you know what, this is the official report. Right now, don't overburden yourself in reinventing the wheel. Look at the DHS report for your country and you'll be able to see who signed it off. And that person validated that data. So if we are using the same data that is in your DHS report in this dashboard, you can be assured that that data is accepted and it's going to be fine. All right. So that's the custodian you're looking for. So through the support of a technical expert from our team and yourselves, you're going to discuss, you hold a meeting and you discuss each of the indicators and identify the stakeholders and say, for child marriages, we should talk to the National Statistics Office, we'll talk to so-and-so. For education, we'll go to Ministry of Education, let's talk to the Permanent Secretary on the Ministry of Education. So you go through all of them. The idea is that you must identify your key stakeholders who you're going to discuss with. All right. So the important takeaway on this particular step is just that start with the indicators, trace the data source, identify the custodian, confirm the stakeholder to build a strong foundation for data validation. All right. The second one that I want to show you now, after you've identified the stakeholders, it is possible that you probably can engage the stakeholders maybe all at once, but maybe you need to engage them one by one and so on. So there are 5 ways in which you can engage your stakeholders. All right. So the first one would be one-on-one engagement. So particularly for high-profile stakeholders, that may not be easy to bring to a meeting or not be easy to catch all at once. We recommend that you probably can set up individual meetings for detailed discussions to clarify. So maybe this could be your minister, this could be, a senior government official. So if you need to engage at that level, maybe you need to engage them one-on-one. You can also do what are called cohort focus group engagements. So this is where you can bring. So maybe if your stakeholder group has got maybe a few practitioners that are spreading across different ministries, but it's maybe the same focus. So maybe you need to get somebody from child protection, maybe somebody from, from the Ministry of Education, and then maybe somebody from the psychosocial, and you want to bring them together. So a cohort is people with similar a similar theme or a similar interest. You bring them together so that you can validate the data. So you can also do a couple of these. So maybe you can say for legal, we'll bring a cohort for legal practitioners. For protection, we'll bring a cohort for protection. For prevention, we'll bring a cohort. It could vary. It could be education, whatever. So you may decide to do it that way. So this is best for technical teams and sectorial groups. All right. I am leaning towards number 3, which is a multi-stakeholder meeting. This is where you decide to bring stakeholders from different cohorts, but they can all come together and help you validate. And here I would even say, if you are able to set up a separate platform for the validation, great. Or if you can ask space in an already existing platform. So, for example, I know that most countries will have certain councils. Maybe it's a National AIDS Council, or maybe a National Child Council. Any of those bodies that sort of convene multi-sectoral practitioners or departments together. So ask for space in those spaces and present the dashboard and ask if there are any other opinions about the findings specific to your country, and see if they will refer to you to different sources. There is also online engagement. So for very busy people who travel, you may decide to also engage them online and get that data. So these are the four ways that you can engage. You can use all four of them. You may use one. You may decide to use however you decide to do it. The duty of the core practitioner from our team, the technical expert from our team, will be to convene meetings among you who are here from your member state, and you will discuss these aspects and make a decision. Now, we have partners here like UNFPA who have actually volunteered to even host a multi-sectoral meeting, a multi-stakeholder meeting in their spaces. So we hope to then discuss how that looks like. Some of you can convene these even at Parliament itself. Some of you may even find ministries, line ministries that are excited to convene these spaces. So by all means, engage them. So discuss your plan of engagement, define the approaches, define timelines. You will discuss timelines, you discuss roles and responsibilities. And then if they attract a budget, you also discuss, okay, if we're going to have a multi-sectoral, a multi-stakeholder meeting to validate the data, we'll maybe need a budget for teas, accommodation, and so on. Who's going to fund those aspects? So you can discuss, maybe there's a budget sitting within Plan International. I can tell you that the way we funded all this work has been through collaboration. So SADC will come, SADC PF will bring in, a resource plan, will bring in a resource, CARE International. So even in your spaces, you will discuss these things. Your technical lead will come back to us and say, you know what, in Comoros, they need at least $1,000 to be able to do this process. And then we'll discuss among ourselves and see if that money exists. But we know that in your countries, in your member states, you also can even channel some of these resources should you need it. So the onus will be on the team to discuss this and come back with a quick plan on how this will work. And sometimes you may not even need a budget because you are working through integrated spaces and you'll be able to do it. Should you need to resource mobilize, this is just really, I don't expect you to start writing proposals to donors and so on. What we just expect is that once your team meets, once the validation team meets and decides how you will do the stakeholder engagement, there'll be an agreement. And when they feed back to us, we will then be able to determine where the pocket of funds can come from, if it will come from in-country or if it will come through different means. We will be able to do this process. So nothing hectic, very simple. It will come through collaboration and through teamwork. And some of you even can host a meeting at your office and say, I can hold this at our office. And you can decide to hold it in the morning. Don't go to lunch so that you're paying too many lunch fees. And keep it simple, keep it interactive, and keep it very, very participatory. In terms of how you will actually do the validation itself, this is a very important slide. What we are looking for is two things. We are looking for you to get consent from the stakeholders engaged, for you to take their names, their position, document their feedback, and their date of participation. So what we are looking for to have is a list of people that were engaged with this process. So in each member state, we would like for you to come back with a list and say, we engaged these people. We engaged the Minister of Finance, we engaged the Minister of whatever, so on. And they consented to us taking their name down and documenting their feedback. So that's what we are looking for to get. Nothing hectic. It will just be a simple attendance register that you will have. And you at the beginning of the meeting, you just ask, do you consent that I can document that you've participated in this process on this day? And if they say yes, that is what we need for you to do. If they come physically, you can make them sign an attendance register and still ask them that, this register is consent that you've participated in this validation process. We need that just for our own backup to be able to say that we did expose this dashboard to them. They don't have to accept all the statistics because we have our politics, like I have said, and this data is in the domain. So not every feedback you get, we implement. Some of it will push back and say, Wallace, we agree with you, but your report you are referring to is 2026 report and has not yet been validated and adopted. So we will maintain statistics for 2025. So we reserve the right to do that, and we'll document as 2025. Now, if the minister was pushing that we use 2026 data that's not yet validated, we have our reasons and we'll be able to back them up. But we'll document that the minister participated in the validation process, and their feedback will document it and say they wanted it changed. And we will also say we didn't change it because the report at that point had not yet been validated. And we'll change it next year. All right. So those are just some of the things that I want to be very upfront with you in terms of our data politics. So it's about validation, about getting consent to take their details, their name of the organization, feedback, and the date of participation. The other aspect is that we want the feedback that you're going to receive to be documented in writing. So when you hold these meetings, as you show the statistics, you will document. We're not looking for verbatim. We just need a validation, a report from you that will say, these are the people that participated. This is the feedback we obtained. Now, if you can verbatim it and give us, quotations and so, that would be great. But I can tell you that we will hardly use that even in our evidencing for validation, because the essence of this is not really to get the word for word feedback from people. It's really to expose and to be able to say if the statistics are representing what is generally acceptable in your member state. So that's what we are looking for. And we already know this data is in the public domain, right? So you submit your feedback to the focal point person that has been assigned to your team. They'll collect that feedback, bring it to us as a technical working group, and we are going to improve and change the data and ensure that the data reflects what has been validated and accepted. Finally, what does the actual validation tool looks like? So it looks something like what you are seeing here. It will have the indicator. It will have the data so far that we have in the dashboard. It will have the year for which the data is for. It will also have the source of that data that we have used. Okay. And then it will ask you to simply say, is this the data in your member state? Do you accept this data or not? And you will simply be saying yes or no. If you say no, you have to be able to tell us why you don't accept this. And if you are proposing an alternative data source, please document there and say no, because there is a recent report that got published and the report says, it is actually 38%. Here is a data source that you can refer to. All right. And that's all we are going to document and use in order for us to change the data. And then obviously this will be backed up by, your written narrative in the background of whatever could have been discussed. But this is all we need from each member state to be able to validate the list of people that have been consulted and the feedback that has been received. So that's how the validation process will work in terms of what we are looking at. So it will come something like this, and you'll be able just to be ticking yes, no, and you conclude this. Now, who is going to do this process? So primarily, it will be coordinated by the technical working group representative. And then in your member state, those of you that have signed up for this process and the partner organizations, you will then agree roles and responsibilities. Those that will say, okay, we will be doing the logistics for hosting. Some of you will say, okay, we'll be in charge of documenting and writing. So we are the ones that will do the actual writing, the enumeration during these validation exercises. And you can share these roles and so on. So all that will be discussed in the meetings that you're going to hold after this particular training. All right. In terms of next steps, what we envisage is that immediately you will receive these presentations. You will receive an email from your focal point person proposing a meeting with all the people that have signed up and have been trained. Probably these meetings, we're expecting them to start as early as next week, Thursday. You start to meet to discuss. And once you start meeting in your member states, you will come up with these particular plans. And you will then move and begin the documentation process of the validation. And depending on who you're going to be meeting. And then after the validation exercise, our hope is that we will have all the recent or up-to-date data, by the end of June, preferably. And we will then be able to update the dashboard in readiness for the July launch that we'll be doing. Now, some teams will move faster than others. Some teams I know will move by end of May. We may even get the most recent data. Some teams may move slower, but we will give you space within your member states to discuss practical timelines and so on. But the absolute cutoff is end of June. We need to have all the data validated by end of June so that we can have enough time to quickly update the dashboard and have it ready for launch in July, right? But we'll be doing it ongoing. So we will be meeting every 2 weeks. In fact, we already meet every 2 weeks as a technical working group. So any data that you are getting every 2 weeks will be reaching us and the dashboard will be updated. So you actually be seeing live updates as you bring in this data. So depending on whatever feedback you get, you'll be seeing live updates changing until the time that you tell us we are done, we've consulted all we needed to, this is official, then your country data would have been approved and concluded and validated. So that's what will be happening. So we'll not wait only until June to change everything. We'll be changing as we receive feedback, but the absolute cutoff will be end of June. Nothing can change after that. Whatever would have received will be final, and until next year, June, or until there is a process that we will discuss in terms of how we will be changing the data. The idea is to keep updating it annually. All right. So step 3 would then, after we would have launched, we'll start building capacity of users across to train people how to use the dashboard, get into spaces, popularize it, go to media houses and everything that we need to do to move that. I know the Marons are here, the Lynch Nenes are here, the analysts of this world are here. The programmers will drive all that for us. In terms of popularizing this. We'll start promoting use of this data. We would love to see an active engagement now within the member states of you beginning to use this data, begin to push. If your country has no national plan of action on child marriages, push that, and say, we are ready, we need to change. So start to actually use this data. And I've stated annually, we shall update it. And because June is the cutoff for this year, the expectation is that by next year, June, we will do another update on the dashboard to ensure that it changes and does the most up-to-date statistics. In few places, we will update ongoingly. So, for example, if your member state tells us that there is a report that has been published, but maybe it's just going through approval processes, and it will be approved maybe by December this year. by all means, we'll take note of that and we'll keep the last report that is available, which is maybe 2025. But if in December the 2026 report is approved, we can update the dashboard and make that. So we'll take notes of some of those little tweaks, because 6 months of having outdated data is too long a time. So whenever the data is ready and we can document that, we will also be flexible, because we want this to be a useful tool. However, in terms of your communication, the expectation is that this will be an annual process, and with a few exceptions where we can change the data should there be updated data coming maybe in the next 3 months or the next 6 months. That's fine, we can change it. But if the data is only coming towards the end of the next year, then it doesn't make sense for us to edit. All right. So this is the validation process. I will end here now, and we are done with the training and the presentations. It's now a time to just have conversations and questions around validation or anything that indeed you want to talk about. Thank you so much. I hand over back to my colleague, Lasson, to help me facilitate the conversation around feedback and questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bevis, for that submission. Quite a lot of information coming forth. Colleagues, let's digest this. If you have any questions, areas of clarification, feel free to raise your hand or just go straight to unmute and make your submission known. Let's have a conversation. Is this clear? How do we move from this point moving forward? Do we know the next steps? How do we kickstart the process? Anyone can pick it up? I don't see any hands. Colleagues, please feel free. Let's have a conversation. Do you have any questions or even comments? That's fine. Are we ready for the challenge? Are we ready to pick it up? Okay.
I see a thumbs up from Abigail there. Great, great,
Yes.
great. Is it all clear? Yeah. Is it all clear, Abigail? Do you want to say something? You've given a thumbs up there.
Okay.
No, I'm okay. The thumbs up is here. I'm agreeing with the discussion.
Diane?
Great. I see Evalis giving a thumbs up. Anything from your side?
No. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
One
Great.
of the
Of course.
questions I wanted to ask Lasson was, which is the most preferred of the 4 engagement strategies proposed? Which one do people think will be most effective that you think you will use in your validation process? If you were just to think about your member state, which one do you think will work the most for you to validate this dashboard? I'd like us to hear a few countries here. For example, Maron in Zambia. What do you think will work best for Zambia? I can see also a few colleagues from Tanzania. What will work in order for us to validate? You know, some countries are so huge. I was in Mozambique recently. I was in Gaza. The country is huge. What do you think will work most effective, colleagues? Any feedback from yourselves?
Yeah, so I think for me, I can go Bevis.
Please
So
go
I was
ahead.
looking at especially for Zambia, if you look at the amount of stakeholder meetings and also the online engagement, I think these will work better. But other than this, as the technical leads, there are some of us that have been assigned to French-speaking and Portuguese-speaking countries. We really need to spend a lot of time in the back end to see how the countries will be coordinated. Yeah, so that's my feedback for now.
Thank you so much. Indeed. And you know, don't even fear to send the dashboard via email and explain to say we are validating this dashboard. What do you think? Because that also could be an easy way. Some people can just revert to you via writing and so we've reviewed. This is what we think, and you document what they would have said. That's also possible to do, particularly for people that may be very busy. Yeah, so thanks for noting that. And yes, indeed, in terms of the facilitators, should you face a language barrier, please let us know and we'll be able to provide you interpretation or support that you need indeed to be able to be effective in what you're doing. Thank you. Now, any other opinions on how you think you validated? Colleagues from Tanzania, do you want to say anything?
For Tanzania, I think we will not face much challenges because we will go with a micro-sector meeting, which are easy to coordinate within the country. But when we face any challenge, we will let you know. But for me, for Seychelles, I was thinking of the online where I will just send emails to the respective people for them to share their insights on the data for Seychelles. But for me, I don't see any challenge unless in the practical situation during the validation of the data.
Thank you, Annette. Right. Okay.
Hi, Bevis.
Yes, Larson.
Mine is around the turnaround. Practically, we have 1 month to ensure that this task is accomplished. And so it may actually require us to move at a fast pace, but more also ensuring that we continue engaging. So I see opportunities of us ensuring that perhaps almost every week we are already meeting and coordinating these processes for us to meet the deadline of month end June. So it may call on every one of us to get involved and ensure that the task is accomplished as planned. So that is critical, so that then we have data that will actually be accepted at the final launch of the dashboard. I thought I could just emphasize that need. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And colleagues, let's take this with the energy it deserves. That's why we started with the content. The idea is really that there is a problem at hand. When we were in Durban, given the opportunity to speak in the ESCO meeting, I started off by reminding people that over the last 20 to 30 years, we've been working on child marriages across the region. There's no country that has reported more than a 5% change in the statistics. There hasn't been a shift in that regard. The numbers have remained pretty much the same. And so we're not dealing with a problem that whose solutions have been effective. We're not changing the scourge's trajectory. More and more children are getting married off. And at the rate that we are going, I've forgotten my math, I need to find that, but I worked it out that it probably could take us over 200 years to be able to eradicate child marriage at the rate that we are going. And so it means that our children still have a risk of getting married off, but their children's children also still have that risk, and so on. It would be exciting if we can end this calamity in the time of our lifetime. And so it's a very, very serious matter, and I would love to encourage you to get on board, be passionate, mobilize. Everybody need to be mobilized. Let's do all we can. This is one part of the puzzle that can help us to drive the discourse. And as Maron said, what makes this dashboard unique is that it brings all the data sources in one place. It brings UNFPA, it brings AU, it brings SADC, it brings global program, it brings all of those in one place. So it's a concerted space where we are all speaking one language, and that helps us to drive objective conversations and be able, hopefully, to channel the right level of response that we need to end the scourge. So thank you so much for your time. Allow me to check in if SG is still around, to be able to give us any closing remarks in the last minute or two that we have. Otherwise, I'll welcome Dr. Scully. I can't see the chat, apologies, to just give any closing remarks on the part of SADC PF. From my side, representing the technical working group, we are so grateful for the space that we are able to contribute. And we are so thankful that you made your time. Collectively, we have trained close to 80 people over the 2 trainings, which is fantastic. Thank you for the response. And we hope that this contribution will be meaningful for the girl child out there, especially. So over to you, Dr. Scully, to close the workshop for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Bevis, and let me appreciate you and the technical team for putting this training together, but also for putting the dashboard together, and all the participants in the past 2 trainings who managed to come to this training. I think this is one of the wonderful things to see colleagues from different NGOs, as well as countries, as well as parliaments joining this training. Actually, it will bring lots of rich information that will enrich the dashboard itself. And as you have indicated, Bevis, I think the next steps are very, very critical, because of we need this data to be validated as soon as possible. And with the attendance that I've seen, I believe that we will be able to reach that. But also, I think after validation and this has been launched, the dashboard, I still believe that all parties should play a critical role in ensuring the sustainability of the dashboard itself. And then also, let me take this opportunity to thank the translators who came in and provided us with translation or interpretation, and ensuring that we can hear each other during this particular training. And also the team at SADC PF who worked tirelessly to ensure that some of the few things that were required at the last moment, they tie those in and ensure that this training becomes successful. From us at SADC PF, thank you very much. And until we meet again in the next few weeks during data validation, let us make this successful, and let us ensure that we complete this process so that we can all have a dashboard that we feel proud of. Thank you and have a lovely day until we meet again in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Scully. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, SG, once again, and thank you, colleagues. Have a good rest of the day. It's exactly 1 p.m. That's how we roll at M&E working group. We keep time. So thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Congrats, Bevis and team.